Hello, everyone. Namaste and a very good evening. I, Akriti Periwal, welcome you all to another interesting and interactive session of Muskan and Kitab, initiatives of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, presented by Sri Cement Limited in association with Penguin Random House India. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is an organization based in Kolkata, founded by late Dr. Prabha Khaitan. Their latest initiative, Muskan, aims at popularizing Indian heritage, literature, and culture among children and young adults by weaving it into formal and informal education through student activities. Some of the ways developed to do this are cultural programs, storytelling sessions, theater, dance, music, and art, which are organized through collaborations with our network of schools, cultural institutes, and associations, both pan India and overseas. The birth of a book always calls for celebration. Kitab provides a platform to authors to display and showcase their newest library works before a discerning audience and media through tastefully curated book launches. Today is indeed momentous for me and for all the attendees present here. The guest for today's session is the stalwart, Miss Sudha Murthy. Miss Murthy is all women in one. She is a determined doer, a resilient social worker, a brilliant engineer, a homemaker, an author, and she keeps adding more roles to her persona. Where there is a glass ceiling, Miss Murthy has a hammer ready to shatter it. Where there is a flood, Miss Murthy builds a boat. And where there is a mountain, Miss Murthy would be ready with her ropes. Ma'am, you show us all that impossible is only a word and really has no place in our world. In the 1960s, Miss Murthy was the first woman to enroll in engineering when it was considered a male domain. Sudhaji has completed her engineering from BVB College of Engineering, obtaining the first rank across all branches and receiving a gold medal from the Institute of Engineers. She did her ME from the Indian Institute of Science with distinction and started her career as the first woman engineer with Telco, which is now Tata Motors. Today, she's the chairperson of Infosys Foundation and has handled 16 national disasters in the last 24 years. Sudhaji, you truly have been the pioneer in paving way for women in STEM. Miss Murthy studied in a Kannada medium school till the 10th standard and fell in love with the language. Her strong ties to the language and its people led her to establish more than 60,000 libraries in Karnataka. She also strongly believes in creating awareness for social causes and has passionately traveled the world for this purpose, including universities and gatherings in USA, Colombia, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, New Zealand, Australia, England, Thailand, Vietnam, China, Tibet, and Singapore. A prolific writer in English and Kannada, her books have been translated into all major Indian languages and have sold over 30 lakh copies, unsurprisingly, around the country. She is a columnist for English and Kannada dailies with 30 books and more than 200 titles to her credit, including novels, non-fiction, children's books, travelogues, technical books, and memoirs. In addition, she's also received 9 honorary doctorates. Some of these awards include the R.K. Narayan Award for Literature, the Padma Shri in 2006, the Attimabe Award from the Government of Karnataka for Excellence in Kannada Literature in 2011, the Lifetime Achievement Award by Crossword Books in 2018, and most recently, the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Award for Excellence in 2020. Ms. Sudha Murthy lives by the belief that generosity of a few is a hope for millions. This belief, Sudhaji, I'm sure, will be imbibed by all the young children present here today. In conversation with this prolific writer is Ms. Shudkirti Khurana. Shudkirti Khurana is an independent editor of several fiction, non-fiction, and children's books. She is the chief editor of Ms. Sudha Murthy's books since 2011 and has worked with various authors, including the late President APJ Abdul Kalam. With her background in engineering and business management, she is also the program director at Infosys Foundation. We are so proud to announce that today, Ms. Sudha Murthy's latest book, How the Earth Got Its Beauty, is being launched on this platform. May I request Ms. Sudha Murthy and Ms. Shrutkirti Khurana to hold the book on their right for a photo op. Thank you, ma'am. We congratulate you, ma'am, on your new book and look forward to more such interesting and educational books that would enrich the young readers and minds of our country. Now, I request everyone to sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation, and I hand it over to Shruti.
Thank you, Akriti, for your very kind words and sharing the launch with us on this platform. First, I would also like to thank Mrs. Murthy and all our viewers for joining us today, especially in this new tech-savvy world where you all have options to attend many, many, many online sessions. So I am delighted that you have joined us today on this beautiful Friday evening. We celebrate two festivals today all over the country. There's Muharram and there's Varalakshmi. And it is nice to take out some time to be grateful and just say thanks, no matter where we are. In that vein, we must not forget Mother Earth and all that she blesses us with. Snow-capped mountains and oceans so deep, colorful flowers and extraordinary animals. The tale of how such beauty came into existence on our amazing planet is a curious one indeed, and that is what this book is about. This book is very special, and not just because it is the third book in the chapter series that we are so proud of, which Mrs. Murthy has authored, but because it is also her 39th book and 230th title, which includes translation into other languages, many, many, many other languages. And that is my segue into the first question. Mrs. Murthy, your words bring the visual right into our imagination. So as a child, and before I move on to that first question, I'd like to just read two lines which turn the words into visuals for us. I see birds and animals. I see the crops in the fields, and I think of animals in the color of vegetables. Perhaps colorful birds that sing or dance, and insects with wings in different colors could fly around the fields. Aquatic animals with bright colors could liven up the water world too. So when did you first experience the power of language as a child?
Oh, well, good evening to everyone, and thank you, Shruti and Akriti, introducing me and asking questions, Shruti. I always believed, when I grew up in a village where there was no electricity, about 60, 65 years back. So the only entertainment was by reading books. When I used to read books, I was taken aback the power of words. A single word can make you happy, also can make you sad. Like the first time I realized the power of word, pun upon the word, the first time I realized, maybe I was 7 or 8 years old. My grandfather was a Sanskrit teacher, so he told Shakuntalavanyam Pasya. That is, it is difficult to translate in English because it's a pun upon the word Shakuntalavanya. And loosely I can tell there is a sentence in Abhidnya Shakuntala by Kalidasa. There is a word, it comes in a single sentence, Shakuntalavanyam Pasya. That means look at the beauty of Shakuntala. Other thing is, look at the beauty of the beauty of the bird Shakunta, both in one. So the king thinks it is Shakuntala, and his friend thinks it's a bird. There's a bird by the name Shakunta. So that was the first time I realized a sentence can make enormous difference, and it has enormous power. That means the more the words you know, the more the power you have. I will give an example. Somewhere in 1970, I think, me and my brother, we were telling our father, we are getting bored at home, etc. Like every other kid will do it today. That time it was not that bad. But it's a holiday, we said. My dad said, okay, why can't you people do something which will keep you occupied entire summer? So my brother Srinivas was in central school, so he decided to buy Oxford Dictionary. And I was from a Kannada medium school. I decided to buy hard Kannada words from Kittel Dictionary. That gave me enormous power to express myself in Kannada language. Many feelings I can do in one sentence because the word has tremendous power.
That is amazing. And when you go to the Q&A section, I would really love to know if there are any children out there who have actually gone and studied the dictionary like you did, or even, a couple, at least a bit of it as much as you did. Because I know personally that you actually went through A to Z of the dictionary, so which is really unusual. It isn't something that most kids usually do at that age.
Maybe because we didn't have computer in those days, spell checker. If you make a mistake, it will show underline red. Nothing was there. That could be another reason that we have to know our spellings very well or meaning of each word very well.
Correct. That is so true. So I want to touch upon your writing journey in the English language. You did non-fiction stories about work at the foundation, and then you authored several fiction novels. Then you moved on to writing for children, and it turns out that you have a very devoted fan following in them when it comes to the little ones. So what was your thought process as you explored these different types of writing? Usually you have authors who start with the children one. Your journey was sort of almost reversed in a way. So what went through your mind as you went through this process?
Writing non-fiction is extremely easy because, I work for a foundation where I meet different sets of people. I say in my painting, my canvas is very large because I meet politicians, beauty queens, film actors, poor people, the sex workers, name a kind, any genre you call. I know I work with people. So, but when I realized their life, their work, etc., it was amazing. I never actually, when you imagine you have a limitation depending on your intelligence, there's the limitation of your imagination. But when you work with real people in real world, they are so different than your imagination. So writing for my experiences or non-fiction is extremely easy because I've seen such situations. I only come back and describe. Okay, changing the name, taking their permission, and with certain word count of 2,000 per or 1,800, depending on my column, whatever I should write. Writing fiction, when it comes to fiction, I started with fiction actually. I started my writing career with fiction. And in the 1979, when I was 29 years old, my first travelogue came. It was a very small travelogue. I traveled on my backpack to America in those days with minimum money. Today, if you tell me that, I feel what is there to write, because many people go like that. But a girl from a small town going to US on backpack with less money is something unimaginable in those days. So I wrote. But my subsequent writing started with only non-fiction, fiction. So that is Gently Falls, Bakula, Dollar, Bahu, Mahashweta, Yashasvi in Kannada, then House of Cards, all those. That is my last novel. In 2004, I think I wrote The Mother I Never Knew. So all this fiction, that will take 2 to 3 years for me to write. And I normally write in Kannada first, and then I myself do its translation in English. I don't give it to anyone to translate my books because I know what my stories are. So when I have to express my emotion, Kannada being my strong forte, so it is so important for me to write in Kannada and then I will transform them into English. Whereas non-fiction, I directly write in English. Third one, children book. Actually, 2005, I started writing for children. Okay, in English, I started 2005. My first book was How I Taught My Grandmother to Read. Okay, that is my first book, and later 2004 actually. 2005 or 6, I wrote Magic Drum, because I always felt writing for children is something joy, because their mind is so clear, like a wet wall. I always say you can write anything on them, it remains. And I said, let me write a storybook for children without any magic. That time I was not even a grandmother. Okay, I wrote. Then I wrote with magic, that is the bird with the golden wings, etc. So then I realized that the impact is much more when I write for children. So I wrote a lot more for children afterwards. That is the Mystery of the Lost Temple, Grandmother's Bags of Stories, Grandparents' Bags of Stories, then chapter books. And this year, this is the latest one, How the Earth Got Its Beauty. Now I feel, because when I discuss with a person like Shruti, who is my editor, and also I know her for a long time, I ask her, you are an English medium girl, you went for English medium school. Tell me, when you were a teenager, did you get any English books, Indian authors who wrote in English? She says, you told me that we always read Enid Blyton because we never had many Indian writers in English. Now, when you read Enid Blyton and my book, the difference is the stories are different, but the atmosphere, or the way she describes England is so different than I describe India. I say, you in a holiday, you go to Nana Nani's house, you eat mango, then you pester your grandmother to tell a story, then she makes, I put some time in South India, then Nani makes you rasam, sambar, idli, or sometimes I make it North India. She makes kachori, puri, halwa. So I make it, because I lived in India, and I make it like how Indians live, how Indian children live with grandparents. So my writing has become very popular, because compared to other English writers who describe the Western set, whereas I describe the Indian set. And that's the reason I think simple English without referring any dictionary. So just you relax and read and connect to your own environment, or your own families. That makes probably much more live, I think, in my writing. That's what I'm assuming. So I enjoyed writing the whole series, grandparents, or then mythology. I started Indian mythology, cutting off unnecessary things, extra things, and unusual stories for adult and children. I wrote them.
Correct. And that is so true, because even as an adult now, I read more books by Indian authors than I did when I was young, because I didn't have the option. So that is something that I know a lot of children love with the new age authors in India. Now, coming to this beautiful book, since you're talking about Western environment and the Indian environment, what was the environment around which you wrote this book and came up with it?
Over the years, I realized, particularly in pandemic, I realized that how much we abuse nature. Just because one has money, when there is so much of plastic around, the ocean, in a pandemic, people, there was a lot of lockdown in every country, and you could see dolphins in Ganga. You could see, deers on the roads, which we otherwise would have been extremely busy, which are near to the forest. And I felt very sad that the earth belongs to everyone. It is not that because we can talk, we can say, look, I paid money, so the 60-40 site is on my name. But our animals kingdom, our forest, everything we occupy, go on ruthlessly cutting the trees, occupying. And it is not only it's our mother earth, it also the home for birds, animals, everyone. And we have become very greedy to occupy their place. For example, other day I was in the forest, near Kaveri river, and there are lots of monkeys around in that small cottage. For a minute, somebody said, why there are so many monkeys around here? I said, very simple. It is their home, and we have built a cottage. Okay?
Good, true.
And my mother used to tell me, whenever there is a tree, in a pomegranate tree, we have a pomegranate tree in our house. And she said, don't pluck them. I said, why? She says, allow the squirrel or monkey or any animal come and let them in. Don't pluck the flowers. It is meant for the bees. You want everything from the nature. You want bees, honey, which is the food of bees. You want fruit, which is the fruit of monkeys. So everything we become selfish and we want to take it. It is not correct. And that's what I want to tell. Earth is so beautiful. Let us not own it. Let us live with everyone, share it with everyone, and don't convert it to commercial all the time. And the famous saying is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Our ancestors have told us 3,000 years back, like world is place for everybody. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It's one big family which lives on the earth. It includes birds, bees, insects, okay, aquatic animals, human beings, forests. Everything is part of that one big family.
So beautifully said. And what better way for the next generation to change than, having a book for the young ones. They are the ones who have the most impressionable. That being said, there are a lot of layers to this book, and a lot of adults have come back and appreciated the way the book has been written. And many of them have also come back and said that they stopped for a few moments to think about the planet itself when they were reading the book to their child. Now, in the book, Devi gives the three sisters, and I will not obviously disclose the entire book, but Devi gives the three sisters a special task to complete between 2 full moon days. To you, what is the significance of a full moon day?
Okay. How many of you, this generation, have really enjoyed full moon day? In a busy city like Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, you don't even know which day is Purnima, which day is, no moon day.
Correct.
And even though there's a full moon day, you go to your chat or the top of your house, you can't see the full moon because there's so much pollution, you can't even see the stars. And, in my impressionable age, I was in a village. And for us, a full moon day means we used to go, there was no electricity for us. So we used to take our dinner and eat on the terrace.
Correct.
So full moon day, it was quiet, cold, very nice. And we used to have our dinner, all cousins together. So it has always been in my mind, a full moon day is a symbol of happiness, a symbol of a nice cozy things, a symbol of gentle light. It is not like a 12 o'clock burning sun, a gentle light. It also means, in those days, I'm talking about 65 years back, there used to be, I could hear the sounds of insects talking to each other, okay? Or if there's a gentle wind, the leaves used to flutter and they will convey their message to the wind. I used to feel. So for me, it is more a symbol of happiness. Instead of telling 30 days, I rather said between 2 full moon days. Okay? It is nothing but
the way you created a visual for us again, I will request the children who are listening in, please go up tonight, take your parents and go up to the terrace. And you've just been painted a very beautiful picture of what it looks like. So I hope you will take the time out to slow down a little bit. Don't watch TV tonight, or watch it a little less, and take your parents up for half hour and your siblings and spend some time with them. And write to Mrs. Murthy about your experiences, right? And we will share our email ID with Prabha Khaitan Foundation at the end of this.
I want to tell you a very funny thing, Shruti. When, we were kids, full moon day, we used to make, okay, let us eat all white things today. Like white rice, white yogurt, okay, cabbage sabji without haldi, okay. I remember then kheer is also white. So we used to always see where you can see food white reflection. Such food, we used to choose and eat because just to make it more interesting. Or papad, which is white in color. So we used to go on searching food which is white in color.
That itself is a nice adventure for kids, I think.
Yeah. Difficult for the mother to do, but we used to do such things.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now this question is a little different. Now we have all heard of grandparents and our parents going for pilgrimages, and sometimes as children we have accompanied them for these pilgrimages, usually to religious places. Now, have you ever been on literary pilgrimages like libraries, museums, and or someone's home because it was outstanding in terms of what you had heard when it came to books, or even just for research?
Yeah, actually, probably we were constantly with grandparents. So wherever they go, we used to follow them. Like every Saturday, we used to go to Hanuman Mandir. Okay. And it was our job that we will go with grandparents and clean it. Actually, it was about 3 kilometers away from home in the middle of the forest. So then my grandmother will say, okay, you go there, we'll go, but you clean. So we all kids used to clean. Then sometimes she used to cook there, then do Naivedya to Hanuman and eat and come back in the evening. That adventure we have done. I used to go with my grandfather to library, which is the abode of Saraswati, and he was a school teacher. So for him, library means a temple. So I used to go with him, and not even once, we were so much careful about books. I learned it from my grandfather. Never keep a book on the floor. That it will be dirtied. Always cover it with the cover. In those days, always used to cover it, and never never make fold a page and make an ear. We used to call that. Never ever do that, because we used to remember this is my grandfather told me this is it's not a book. This is actually a living thing. Okay, never put a step. If your foot by or finger, your feet by mistake touches the book, immediately say sorry and take it and do like this, because for us book was a living person, and which is a replica of Saraswati, and which is and a library of the abode of the goddess of learning. So we always enjoyed with my grandparents everywhere. We used to go everywhere. We were inseparable from them. Any wedding, okay, go with them. Anybody's house they go, we'll also go with them. Okay. It was, and also it was, life was quite easy compared to now, because grandparents were also quite not so much occupied, or compared to today's grandparents. Like I'm always busy. Okay, my own life, I'm very busy even at this age. Whereas my grandmother at this age was not at all busy, other than cooking or this one. So life was much more simple, serene, slow moving, and slow flowing riverlet. So it was easy.
That sounds so idyllic and nice. I wish we had days like that now. Okay, now there is a saying that a writer never has a vacation. For a writer, life consists of either writing or thinking about writing. So does that hold true for you?
Maybe, may not be. Like, every interesting thing catches my eye. I convert it to a story. Probably, yes, I do. And more than that, I absorb. I have a love to learn. That is more important than my writing. Anything new, I want to learn. Okay, any new incident happens, then I want to analyze. So I'm more of a search person, and I'm like a search engine. Okay, my byproduct is writing. I think I don't go in the method of everything I should convert into writing. No, everything is I want in search of knowledge, and byproduct of that is always writing.
That is so true. I think, yes, I think that was the exact answer to the question, because knowing you, I think it's that love for learning that stems, and
that keeps me young even today.
Yes, correct. And it's a part of you. There's no moment where you're not looking for something to learn. So I think that's a big passion. All right. So in your own writing, what do you consider your biggest strength and your biggest weakness?
Actually, that as an editor, you know better. I always ask you that. My English is extremely simple. It is like colloquially how I talk to you, the same way I write. And my simple writing probably has become my strength. My weakness is I'm from a Kannada medium, so my vocabulary may not be large. So that may be my weakness. The way I express Kannada, my emotions in Kannada, with so many different words. In English, I do with simple words. Okay. And that is
I
my
think-
weakness, I consider, but you say that is the strength. Okay.
Yes. And while you're at it, I would like to add that this is the exact reason what you consider your biggest, weakness perhaps is the exact reason where a lot of kids who are in regional schools and move from regional language schools to English are being given textbooks that have stories written by you. And they have been definitely acknowledged as a transition way for such children, which is huge because we know that English is the need of the hour when it comes to getting a job. So I agree with that. Now,
The more transition from regional language to English in between, they read my books. Yeah.
correct. And then they turn out to be a fan. So the last section is a fun section. It is a rapid fire round. I will give you one word. I will say just one word, and you must reply back with also only one word, the first word that comes to your mind. All right, and we'll
Let
end
me
with
try.
that.
No, it's
Yes.
one word is
This is
difficult
fun.
actually. See, please remember, Shruti, I'm also a teacher. A teacher is the one who talks more and explains more than needed, Okay, let me try.
Yeah, it's just so fun. All right, the first word: books,
Joy,
family,
love,
Bollywood,
happiness,
children,
affection,
philanthropy,
listening to heart,
3 words.
compassion. Okay, maybe compassion,
Very cool, very cool. Writing,
expression.
women,
Pardon?
women.
Strength.
Oh, that's beautiful. Food,
I didn't get. Tell me again.
food,
Okay. Food is also joy for me. Joy. Taste. Taste.
yes.
Food is taste.
Yes.
Mm.
Fun.
Life.
And the last one, God.
Supreme.
This is a beautiful rapid fire. I'm sure the kids, someone will be clapping out there, I know. That fun rapid fire brings us to the end of my conversation with one of India's best authors. I hope you enjoyed this intimate exchange. Over to you, Akriti.
Thank you, Shruti.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, because I don't ask any questions before my interview. So I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's also something a little playful I thought for today.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Correct.
much, Shruti. Those were really beautiful questions, and hearing Sudha ma'am's answers were truly motivational and like a trip down memory lane with all our grandparents telling us too that don't let the book touch the floor. So thank you so much for those reminders. I can see all the students bubbling with excitement, all the young children. The Q&A box has been abuzz with excitement. So I'm going to now let this time be with the children. Let's begin by asking, can I ask Dhruv Bhatnagar to actually ask his question to ma'am directly? Can we have Dhruv here as a panelist?
Yes, ma'am. Greetings, ma'am. Greetings, ma'am. I feel
Yeah.
so glad to be a
Where are
part,
you? Where are you? He's on audio?
ma'am.
He's on audio. He's on audio.
Okay, tell me better.
Greetings, ma'am.
Greetings. Oh, good evening.
I feel so glad to be a part of this interactive session. What I'm interested to know is, do you want each book of yours to stand on its own, or are you trying to build a body of work with connections between each book?
No, normally no. I don't make sequels keeping in that mind. At that moment, I feel like writing and I enjoy writing, I write. But sometimes it happens like a Nooni's book, that is Mystery of the Lost Temple. People wanted sequel, etc. But normally my books are independent of each other. They are collectively exhaustive, but individually they are independent. Like mythology, all are independent, but collectively they are exhaustive for the entire mythology. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable answer.
Thank you, Dhruv. Now we have Ananmay Daga. Ananmay, we'll have you on audio to ask your question.
Good evening, ma'am. I have read all your books.
Thank you, beta. Thank you.
Ma'am, I want to ask that how I read newspapers and it shows that you are a very kind and simple person. I also want to be just like you. So how do you be such a kind person?
You will learn when you see life, when you look at people who are poverty stricken, who do not have much economic power, who are helpless, then you should think about that. Can we help them in any way? Looking at the birds, animals, and looking at their eyes, you should feel in what way we can help, because they're so helpless. When you meet such people, you should always make an effort to help them. That makes you kind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ananmay. Next up, we have Daksh Jha.
Nice names, Daksha.
Daksh, you can unmute yourself and ask your question to ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Can you please tell us what is the role of using heavyweight vocabulary in writing? I mean, is it a great idea to be verbose?
Well, if you have a good vocabulary, then probably you can use the exact, in a way, it's nice to know many meanings, many words. It's like it is the strength of the knowledge. It is like a strength of the language. You may use, may not use, but you should know different words, because there is a fine division. For example, the name of my office is Neradu in Kannada. Is it a shadow? No. Is it a shade? No. So, shadow and shade both are different. Okay. Suppose you know many words, then you can come to the exact meaning for that word, not approximate. Like in Sanskrit, you have for one object, there are many words are there. For example, lotus. Lotus is called Sarasija, Jalaja, Kamala, Kumudini, Kaumudi. There are so many names are there. More than 100 names are there. But each name is different than, like if the flower blooms in the night, then you call it Kaumudi. And if it's blue in color, then it's Kumudini. If it's red in color, then it's Kamala. If it is white in color, then it is Jalaja. If it is yellowish in color, then it's Sarasija. So Sanskrit is the best language where you have for one object many words. That is the strength of the knowledge. It is better to know that so many words, meaning, so that you can use exact thing or near exact for the given situation. That's the reason I say you should know synonyms very well. Thank you.
So beautifully explained. I'm sure Daksh is now going to work harder to understand nuances of the language.
Yeah.
Next, can we have Adita to ask her question? Adita Gupta to ask her question.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I have read a lot of your books and I really loved them. I am also really fond of writing short poems and stories. I have a lot of ideas, but I don't understand how I can build those ideas into long stories.
Yeah, you are in a class grade 4 beta, so wait for some more time. What you feel like writing, just write it. Whatever, when you see good rains, when you have winter, when some relatives come home, what you want to write, you write it and keep it. As you grow, later part of your life, this writing will help us. At the age of 8 or 9, you will not be able to write the sensitive portion of writing. So, but habit of writing, you should start. Like I started in a very young age, but I wrote my first book when I was 29, my first novel when I was 31. So it takes, I feel you should wait, but don't forget to write. That's what I want to tell. Okay, next.
Thank you, Adita. Next, we have Divyanshi Chatterjee.
Tell me, Divyanshi.
Divyanshi, I think we're just waiting for her to become a panelist. Maybe we can move to the next one meanwhile. Vedant Arora, can we have Vedant Arora to ask his question?
Good evening, ma'am. You
Good
are
evening.
an epitome of simplicity and humility.
Hmm.
In one of your interviews, you expressed how your generation was more accepting of failure and rejection, whereas today's generation is scared of failure. So, my question to you is, what would be the values we should incorporate in our lives to keep us grounded and humble?
Vedant, look at this. More than you, your parents want you should excel in everything. It's the parents' pressure saying that they decide your future, saying that my child should be good in whatever he or she does. If she knows Bharatanatyam, she should be top. If she knows swimming, she should be top. If she is athlete, then she should be like PT Usha. So we parents go on increasing the bar of a child's achievements and define a child by achievement. And that is the reason children are under greatest pressure, and any failure makes them to think that, look, I have failed. My parents' expectation is this high, and I have made them to fail. With my failure is failure of parents, and that causes lot of tension at home and also lot of miseries for the family. So, if you really want a good life, a good life means a life which is much more open to accept failure, your expectation should be less or lower. And your parents should feel, so what, my child has not done well in the exam, but the child is very good in painting. So what, my child has not done in mathematics that well, but my child is very good in music. Please remember, only academic excellence is not excellence in life. You may not be good in mathematics. That is not end of life. That is the beginning of another life. So parents' expectation, very high expectation on children actually makes life much more, much more difficult. And you have to say, look, I will try my level best. I will try my level best. Today the competition is extremely high. If I may not do well, then I would like to do something else later. Okay? Take it not with the failure is the best, not the success is the most. What it comes, whether you can do or you cannot do, gauge it, and whatever is your aptitude or passion, do it.
I think a beautiful lesson that even the parents here can go away with. Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, we have Mishika Agrawal. Mishika Agrawal is here.
Good evening, ma'am. My question to you is that even in current times, we see gender stereotypes in children's stories. Like pink is meant for girls and blue for boys. Boys play with the cars and girls with dolls. How can we instill gender neutrality within kids?
that is really not true, Mishika, because I am a girl. I went to do engineering. It depends on the parents how they bring up children. If they say boys should play, no. My parents were 3 daughters and a son to our parents. My parents did whatever we want, they gave it to us. And that's the reason 50 years back, I did my engineering, 52 years back, which was unheard so difficult in those days. So gender bias is most of the time is created at home. I never played with dolls. I always played with cars. I always drove a vehicle. Like I used to ride cycle, I used to ride bike, I used to drive car, I used to drive truck. It is how you take this is the parents put it in your mind, saying that my father told it is not necessary a girl should do these things, boy should do. Whosoever, whatever they want, they should do. And they should insist on that. Look, there's nothing for a boy or a girl to do, to choose the toys. Whatever you like, you choose. And whatever you choose, do your level best in that. And it's the parents my parents gave me what I liked and appreciated, never said, oh, you're not good in other things. Okay. So that my strength were my parents.
Thank you. I think now we have Divyanshi with us as a panelist. Divyanshi, you can unmute and ask ma'am your question.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Tell me.
I am from South City International School. My question is...
1 minute, that is Calcutta.
Yes, ma'am. When we are writing any biography, How can we decide which incidents to write and which not to write? And how to make it compact and interesting?
Divyanshi, I'm not writing biography at all. Okay. If I have to write a biography, then I should be clear and open. Suppose I make a mistake, I must write. It is not that I have to tell which one to write, which one not to write is not correct. When I make a mistake, I should write it because I'm a human. Ultimately, I'm a human. So I should write it. If you're writing a biography, then you should be very transparent. It is not you only choose the good things and you write and bad things you don't write, then it is not a good biography. There is a very nice biography of Mr. late Girish Karnad. That is one of the finest biography I have read. That is in Kannada, it has come also in English. And there he is so transparent. So was M.C. Chagla. In 1960s, he wrote his life. Very clear biography. Such biographies which are very honest are the real biographies. Most people write only good things about their life, their mistakes they don't show. They are not good biographies. You must write your mistakes. Next.
Next, we have Vanya Shadab.
Yeah, Vanya.
Vanya, you can unmute.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. I'm from South City International School, Kolkata. And ma'am, my question is that how do you get inspiration for writing children's stories?
Yeah, I become a child, then I become extremely curious because children are very curious. They are not biased. They are open-minded. Once you get that, in my mind, when I become a child, curious, not biased, adventurous, they are always adventurous, then I feel like writing for them. Telling whatever knowledge I have, I want to share with them in a very simple way. For example, if you read that my book, The Mystery of the Lost Temple, there little bit of everything I explain, how folk tales are made, how about a little bit of the garden and the herbal medicines, etc. So heavy knowledge, I want to make it light and tell children, look, please enjoy these small things. That's the thing. Okay, next.
Rajeshwari Mukherjee, we have next. Rajeshwari is just joining us. Yes, perfect.
Ma'am, good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, do
Yes.
you frame the characters of your stories from your real life experiences?
Not really, but not, it's 50%. For example, in a weaving, you have two threads on a vertical and horizontal, then only we weave, right? Then you get your material. Or when you make a chatai, okay, a mat, one side is horizontal, other side is vertical. So they go on doing, and then you get the mat. Similarly, 50% is real, 50% is imagination. And I weave it in such a way that a reader will never come to know which is real and which is imagination. That's the secret of good writing. There should be imagination, there should be a little bit of real incident. But the weaving should be done such a perfect way, nobody will know which is imagination, which is real. Yes. Next.
Thank you. Next, we have Jatin DP.
Hi, ma'am. Good evening. I heard that the message that you had by-hearted Kannada dictionary, but how did you learn English and write English so legibly?
It was very hard for me to learn English because when I was 16 years old, I was not able to write one paragraph in English. Then I was scared. I asked my mother. My mother told me, today onwards, you read English paper and try to read English books. So I did everything on reading by myself and I learned it and I started writing. You have to work very hard for that. I worked very hard for that. At the age of 50, I started writing in English.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Arman Agarwal. Arman, you can unmute and ask your question. Arman, sweetheart, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah. Good evening, ma'am. I'm a
Good evening.
and enjoy the world of literature. But sometimes get swayed away with online distractions.
Hmm.
Keep our face in the book and Twitter with excitement without the gadgets and video games.
How I should, what you say that without gadgets, Twitter excitement, without gadgets and video games, what's your advice? Oh, okay. Any day, Twitter, video games are more exciting because you can see 3D there, or you can see the visuals. Visuals are always more exciting than books. Books, reading makes your imagination fertile. Whereas video games, you can see and enjoy. It's a joy to the eyes. And reading is joy to your mind. Okay. But video games have lot of disadvantage because it will affect your eye and it's addictive. It makes you addictive. Then you will forget your main work and you get addicted to that. But reading is not addictive. Reading is not addictive. Slightly it is addictive. For example, if you are reading a very nice book, it's very hard to keep the book down and do other things, but still you can manage it. Whereas video games, people talk, nobody will listen. Mother is yelling at you, you are not listening. All the time you are shooting game, you are looking at that. Or your school homework is there, you don't want to do, you want to finish one more Super Mario game or something. So, and again, it is not good for your mental health as well as your eyes. In pandemic, lot of children, because of the online classes, lot of children have eye problem. My own granddaughter got her specs because all the time they have to concentrate on online classes. So please remember, it is nice. You fix up time, video games. I don't say you should not play. Once a week on Sunday, 1 hour. Okay, not more than that. But fix 2 hours or 3 hours per week reading. Saturday you do 3 hours reading. Sunday 1 hour video game. Unless you are disciplined, this will not help you. Otherwise, you get hooked up to addictive games, and that's the reason I said restrict yourself. And also parents, I request, make children to play only for an hour. Give them 1 hour freedom, then cut it off. They will get upset with you, they will yell at you, but if you don't correct them now, later you will have problem.
I think all the children needed to hear this, and I hope that you're going to put those FIFAs away. Thank you so much, Sudhaji. Next, we have Manasvi Modi. Manasvi, we would love for you to unmute and ask your question.
Ma'am, I would like to tell you first that my sister is of 4 years and she just likes to hear your books. Ma'am, I just translated in Hindi. So, ma'am, basically you are her role model. So, ma'am, my question is, ma'am, who was your role model?
Who is my?
Ma'am, role model.
No, not one person. Different age, different people were role models. Not one person. Like this is the only person who was a role model. No. Different time, different people. For example, when I was very young, of 7, 8 years old, my grandfather was a role model. Later in a teenage, my father was a role model. Later, I realized it is not one person. It is, it are many people, many books, many incidents became so important. And later part of my life, I realized you don't require a role model. You yourself are your role model to yourself, so that you should not make the same mistake what you have done yesterday. But different stage of life, I had different people, different books to help me to get my role model.
Thank you. I think next we have Arpita Majumdar to unmute and ask a question. I think it's Ritvika who is the child using the mother's handle.
Good evening, ma'am. I love math and always wondered if a man of numbers could ever be a man of alphabets. But you have made it possible. I'm interested to know if the shift from an engineer to a writer was an easy one. And if you have to choose a profession yet again, which one would you go with and why?
It is not why I should have only one choice in life. You tell me. Why I have to choose? Why I have to say life is black and white? It's also gray. Why I have to make only one choice? I want to be an engineer. I want to be also a writer. Because I used to teach computer science in a college. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a philanthropist. So I want many, many hats. Why I should have only between one and A or B. No, life is not black and life is not white. It is not that engineers can't write and it is not the writers can't become engineers. Like Shruti Khurana, for example, she is a computer science engineer. She is an excellent editor in India today. Okay, so it is not that if just because you are an engineer, that is the end of your life, you can't be a man of letters. No, you can be man of, you can be woman or a man of person of anything if you have a mind and a discipline and passion to excel. Okay, next.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sudhamurthy. I think that brings us to the close of our session now due to paucity of time. But really, I think I speak on behalf of all the children when I say that from reminding them to respect books because the library is a temple, to telling them that life is multicolored and you can be everything and anything. I'm sure your words of wisdom will really be the wind beneath the wings of these kids, while also reminding them to stay grounded and to stay humble. So on behalf of the foundation, I would like to thank you, Ms. Sudhamurthy and Ms. Shrutkirti Khurana for the fascinating and so enjoyable session. I would also like to thank Shree Cement Limited. And last but not the least, of course, our young listeners and the young bachus. Without their enthusiasm and zest, this session would really not have been successful. In these trying times, we hope everybody stays well and stays safe. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye and good evening.
Thank you very much. If possible, try to understand why I wrote how the earth got its beauty and what are our responsibilities to keep this earth beautiful. That's what I want to tell them. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.